How are you feeling? You got John Riggs here today, ranking games published by Ocean for the Super Nintendo. And why would we rank the trashy Ocean games for Super Nintendo? Well, I'm doing this video as a collaborative effort along with Team C's, Mr. Beast, Mark Rober, and basically every other YouTuber on the planet. We're directing people over to the link in the description below. $1 donated equals 1 pound of trash removed from our oceans, our rivers, and our beaches. I personally, huge fan of the beach, would like to see less plastic in my beach if you don't mind. 100% of the proceeds raised goes to the Ocean Conservancy as well as the ocean cleanup. The money raised is not going to pay off CEOs or anything like that. It actually goes to the good of the cause. More details, of course, in the description below. Hashtag Team C's. Well, I'm a huge fan of the Addams Family, but for the Super Nintendo, well, we'll find out. Now, they did make an Addams Family game for the NES, which is a guilty pleasure of mine. This game plays differently. And it was during a time when Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games, you might get two different games, even though they both come out at the same time and they're both titled the same thing and everything. I'm more nostalgic for the other one. This one actually does play better. You can bop on the enemies on top of them. You can pick up items to help you defeat your enemies as well. Even other items to help you along your way. When it comes to games published by Ocean, this one's more on the upper end of the mediocrity of what you're bound to receive from an Ocean published game. For the Super Nintendo, or any system for that matter. If this is right down the middle, let's just call this a C, and we'll see where we go from here. The Addams Family Values. We got the sequel now. I was really excited to play this game. I was really excited to rent it back in the day because it looked like a Fester's Quest, and I was hoping it'd play a little bit more like that. Interesting that it has the cartoony characters on top, but then when they're in the dialogue stages, it's more taken from the movie. And yeah, I guess it kind of does play a little bit like Fester's Quest, but not as much as I would have liked. You have your little weapons and your little zappy gun and stuff like that, and there's a whole lot of fetch quest and a whole lot of dialogue to get to where you need to go. I'm also constantly hitting the wrong button. The fire button, the Y button, which is oftentimes used for like your attack, in this game pulls up your map. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Let's give this one a C as well. And then we have the Addams Family Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt, and this one's based more on the cartoon that came out shortly after the films. You play as Pugsley in this one, and if any game was going to feel European, this would be the game that just feels and looks European. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. But this game, a little bit more difficult than it should be, and it's also not a very good game. it's not a whole lot of direction on where to go. You're supposed to just, like, clear the stages, but sometimes you're just like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go or anything, and you can, crush the enemies and stomp on them and stuff like that. I mean, I do like the fact that you can kind of choose where you want to go. The different rooms are different stages and all that. But again, not terrible game, but it's really, really not that great either. I'm just going to give this one a C as well. Keep that trend going anyway, right? Well, we have The Adventures of Kid Cleats. This one came out kind of in honor of the World Cup for the time. Stole the trophy, breaks up into a million pieces. Well, not a million pieces, like, a few. Which will make you go to different countries to receive those pieces of the trophy. This is where the game gets difficult. Your weapon is your soccer ball, and you're spending more time trying to attack the enemy, and then by that time it's already too late. You've already been hit, and then you're already gone, and you're already done. And this game is called Kid Cleats, and I would recommend not playing it ever. I'm just gonna give this game an F. Cool World was a cool movie for the time. It was like a little bit of live action, a little bit of animated, some kind of weird themes in there. Like it was animated, but it wasn't a cartoon. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people shouldn't watch this movie. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird too. Like he's not really the bad guy in the movie, but you kind of play as the bad guy in the movie. I mean, according to the movie anyway, you play as the person who draws the cartoons and all that. And again, another one of those super confusing games. It's not a whole lot of direction on what you should be doing, where you should be going. Completely different from the NES game, and the NES game ain't that great either. I'm also gonna just give this game an F. Let's just go straight to it. Dennis the Menace, good lord. So, what should be a fun cartoon platforming game turns out to be a cartoon platforming game. Not very fun. It's not very fun because there's so much stuff going on, and a lot of these Ocean games you'll see this kind of common theme, this common trend. What could be and should be a pretty fun game 100% isn't. I remember renting it, and I remember not liking it, and even capturing this footage, which is the first time I played this game since I rented it back in the day. And then I was reminded of all those. I was reminded of all the other games I should have rented instead of this one. But I loved the movie. Had to check it on the Super Nintendo, and highly disappointed. Let's also give this one an F. Eek the Cat, here's a cartoon nobody talks about. It was a pretty fun cartoon. I remember liking it. I remember it wasn't like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. It came out during a time when like edgy cartoons were becoming the thing, you know, Ren and Stimpy and all that paving the way, and other cartoons during that time as well, of course, Beavis and Butthead. And then we have Eek the Cat. And this game looks like, again, should be a pretty fun game, but it's also kind of a rescue mission, like you're not the mom, but you know, your owner, I suppose. You have to, like, if they get hurt, then you get hurt. So you have to, like, you know, almost block them or push them out of the way so they avoid danger and all that, while you yourself are trying to do what you need to do to finish the stages too. Not a fun game. It has its charm though. I'm actually gonna give this game a D. The Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones. This is based on the live-action movie that came out during this time. And it was a pretty decent live-action movie for its time, you know, for being a live-action Flintstones. You know, trying to make the Flintstones relevant again. I remember in the 90s, I was like, man, they're making a live-action movie based on an old cartoon. Well, by today's standards, it would be like if they made a live-action movie based on the cartoon Doug. Which, by the way, I would love a live-action movie based on the cartoon Doug. It's actually not a terrible game. It really, really isn't. You do have your ability to use your club. You can jump, you can climb up these little things too. You have to get the timing right, or like the positioning right, so you can climb up. But you can also pick up some items too, like rocks, and even the stone bowling balls, that when you use them, they don't disappear. You can pick them back up and use them again. So that's kind of fun. Compared to the other games, if we're ranking games among themselves, like I like to do in these videos, I might even put this as a B. Now again, this does not mean that this game is a B compared to the Bs on the other ranking videos I've done, but for ocean games, it's actually not so bad. Jurassic Park is another game that's not so bad either. This one came out, the Genesis version came out, preferred the Genesis one. This one was pretty good though, too. For what it was. You get your overhead part, you're just, you know, killing dinosaurs, of course, that are just popping out everywhere. You always have your little electric thingy that will just have to recharge, but you can pick up a lot of weapons around too, like, you know, shotguns, fireballs, you know, bombs, whatever. Whatever you need to kill these dinosaurs anyway. One of the highlights for me on this game was when you enter a building and it goes into that first-person Doom mode, which was super impressive to me on a Super Nintendo console. You know, look at this now, and you're just like, you know, it's almost laughable, right? But at the time, it was really, really cool. And give me the benefit of the doubt, I'm also going to give this game a B. I thought it was pretty good. They did make a Jurassic Park 2 for the Super Nintendo, not based on the second movie, but just more like, you know, the chaos continues. And this one plays more like, I think, what it was, they're trying to go for like the Genesis version kind of, but it's still not nearly close or the same. And this goes back to, you'll see a lot of ocean games like this, that kind of run and gun style, but they're still missing the mark on what makes it fun. A couple of different levels and stuff like that too, but it's just like, this game should be fun, and maybe it's because, you know, it's almost, you get hurt so much near the beginning of the game, it just kind of gets frustrating after a while. Again, not great, not bad. Let's give this one I'll give this one a C. Lethal Weapon I had to check out because my last name is Riggs. So it's like, dude, there's a guy named Riggs in this game? Absolutely I want to play this game. I mean, unfortunately it's Mel Gibson, but whatever. You can play as either one of them, really. And you know what? It's another one of this style of game where you just kind of go through and you can shoot your gun. You do have you know, a limited amount of bullets, but you can also, you know, like roundhouse kick enemies to get rid of them. And it's just the dumb AI enemies. It's just like especially on this first stage, they just like walk back and forth with a harpoon. But even still, if you touch them, then you get hurt. It's like, how does that, whatever. All right, Lethal Weapon, it's not a terrible game, but it's also, that's the moral of the ocean games for the Super Nintendo. Not terrible, but not bad. I'll give this one a C. We have Micro Machines. This is supposed to be a racing game, and there's a couple different modes. You can even do 4-player on this one if you'd like, if you have a 4-player tab. Go head-to-head, there's a challenge as well. I'll show you a little bit of the head-to-head round anyway. The rough part with this is you're trying to outrace the other racer. So it's not like how many laps can you do. It shows the full screen, and you have to get them to leave the screen, and when you do, then that's when you get another, you know, basically notch in your belt. And once you do that so many times, then you won the stage. And I don't like that. I'd rather just be like, you know, RC Pro-Am style. Just, you know, race through whoever can, you know, do 4 laps or whatever. But this one's more about trying to outrace the other guy and make him leave the stage and stuff like that. Could have been a lot better, but let's give this one a D. Mighty Max. There was a cartoon during this time. It was also a small pocket, girls had Polly Pocket and the boys had Mighty Max. It was like a little small little, almost like a little play set you could put in your pocket with these little tiny figurines. Seeing that trend again? That, just like, move, run, jump, use your weapons and stuff like that. In this game, you can jump super high. You're like a flea. Look how high you jump in this game. Collect your weapons, shoot the enemies. You can also charge up your shot and launch a bunch of your bullets or whatever you're shooting all at once. But still does not make this game a good game, and I'm giving this game a D. Oh, the days when I'd go to Crazy Mike's video and see this on the rental shelf and laugh, because the guy's name is Mr. Nuts. That's right. So we have Mr. Nuts. This is your cartoony platformer for kids, basically, like young kids. A little bit more slower going, a little bit more simple, a little bit more mascot, a little bit more colors on this one here. You can bounce on top of the enemies, their head. You can crouch down and use your tail. You can attack enemies that way as well. Looks cute. I mean, I could have seen this guy be a mascot. I mean, maybe they took this character and turned him into Conker. I don't know, but Mr. Nuts, easily passable. I'll give this one a D. Pushover. We got a puzzle game, finally. And you know what? It's actually a really good puzzle game, I think. Pushover is basically a dominoes style game. You have your single stage per round, and you have to align the dominoes so when you push one of them, they will all topple down, just like dominoes, right? The thing is, sometimes there's gimmicked dominoes. Like sometimes there's dominoes that won't budge, so you have to like go around them. Sometimes there's dominoes that split in half, that then go opposite directions. So you gotta place those where you would need them and everything like that. You'll get one push per stage. If you don't get it, you'll have to do it all over again. The game's called Pushover. It's from Ocean, and as far as this game, man, I'll give this game an A. I think it's actually really fun. RoboCop 3 is a movie I've never seen. I've seen RoboCop, and I think I watched RoboCop 2 at least. But RoboCop 3 I just completely passed, and RoboCop 3 for the Super Nintendo is another game that you should just completely pass. It's not, I mean, it could have been anything. It didn't have to be RoboCop. I mean, just they're shooting you with regular bullets and you still die. And you still die a lot because there's too many enemies that pop up all at once, and there's enemies that you can't quite hit because they're either too low or they're too high, and you have to angle your gun. If you push up and shoot, you shoot at an angle. You actually have to push the X button, I believe it was, to shoot straight above, like to shoot straight on top, like above your head. Shouldn't have to be that way, RoboCop. I'm giving this game a D. We got Super Turrican 2. Now, they did make a Super Turrican, and that was published by Seika, I believe. Not Sega, Seika? That doesn't matter. This is Ocean, and Ocean was the one that published Super Turrican 2. And if you love the Turrican games, you love that run and gun style, you love that Contra style, and you're looking for something similar on the Super Nintendo, this game is actually highly recommended. It's really, really good. It happens to be published by Ocean. Ocean didn't develop the game, they just published it and put their name on it. Never mind that. Never mind, if you see Super Turrican 2, you're like, ooh, and it says Ocean, you're like, oh. No, it's this one's good. This one's really, really good. Yeah, run and gun style, fast action, fast paced. You can roll up into a ball and drop bombs on the ground, stuff like that. Drop your mines. Big weapons, colorful. I like how it looks. Pretty good challenge factor on this one too. Great, great game. I'm giving this game an A. Why not an S? Well, why not? It's an A. That's all I can say. Oh, straight on to a game called Syndicate, which I'm so confused on what this game is supposed to be. I swear it came from a PC game, because this game actually features loading screens. You shouldn't have a loading screen on a cartridge-based system, but, I digress. There is a part where you can create your crew, I suppose, through AI and whatever you need to do. And then when you're actually playing the game, it looks like this, which to me, any game that looked like this, I'm just like, oh, anything that has like all these window options and where am I going and this weird kind of view. I mean, yeah, Shadowrun was like this too, and I kind of forced myself to play Shadowrun, even though, if I'm honest with myself, I didn't care for it as much. I'm sure this type of game appealed to a lot of people, because there's several of these on the Sega Genesis as well. I never got into them. I'm giving this game an F. The Untouchables, when like Mobster Stuffs was popular again for a little bit. And not just the movie, but then, we had the video games as well. There's a Nintendo game, and then the Super Nintendo game actually lets you choose, what kind of level you want to go to when you first start playing it. But it kind of plays kind of similarly to the NES game. Like, this first part here, you can, run away from jump out of the alley, shoot the enemies, hide in the alley again. The rough part with this is moving back and forth is the literal L and R button. right? So instead of like moving left and right, it's L and R, and then your D-pad is where you're aiming with your shotgun. And you have a shotgun, so you only get like, 2 shots before you have to reload and move somewhere else and dodge out of the way. And there's other stages later on too, some a little bit more like a Cabal or Operation, not really Operation Wolf because it doesn't move back and forth. But things where you have to hide behind something and then jump out, and it's a cover shooter. Let's call it what this game is. This may be one of the first cover shooters for a while. We don't really talk about that, right? Don't really talk about that. Maybe it started with Cabal. I'm not exactly sure, but we have the Untouchables. It's kind of fun to check out. Let's give this game a C. Appropriate for Team C's that there are so many C's on this list where we're talking about trashy ocean games for your Super Nintendo. And how many more times can I reference that crossover here? Team C's is what it's all about. We're cleaning up the ocean. And I love doing these ranking videos. Make sure you check out some of the other ones I've already done, and there's always new ones coming up. Thanks.